Hello, welcome. I recently watched a video by this guy who plays Call of Duty Black Ops and just kind of talks over the video. And he's actually a pretty successful business owner and entrepreneur. He's kind of in a position where I would like to be in, a few years down the line. And he said that one of his biggest regrets looking back on his journey was not documenting more, not journaling more of, he says, the come up of what it took and the things he did to get there. So that's kind of what's inspired this, and I feel like I should be doing something of that nature. I think that I'm kind of in an interesting position here in my own life because I'm just on my own now. I don't really have a typical 24-year-old lifestyle. I live completely on my own. I uh, basically just now I basically just sit in front of the computer and study markets, and I run a little online business, and that's kind of how I live my life. So I think for me it's important. I want to be able to look back on this and gain perspective and also just improve my speaking skills. That's always been one thing I'd like to get better at. So, the last time I made one of these kind of big recap videos was in, I think, June of 2024. I had just started at a different restaurant, working at a different restaurant. Um, and I was, talking about my trading and um, just general day to day life things back then. And now it's crazy how much things have changed. I quit the restaurant jobs entirely. I ended up, having a little business that's worked well for me, that I've been able to afford my cost of living, as well as have a pretty nice quality of life here, in the city where I able to run and eat food, and I'm not. I was in a position where I was really struggling for money and living paycheck to paycheck. And I mean, I was making minimum wage, and I think I shared during that same time too. I was walked into like 40 restaurants in a week and just, you know, tr- desperate for any sort of work, any sort of employment, so I could afford my place and working as many hours as possible and things like that. And now I'm in a very different position. I have a lot of time on my hands. I'm able to study a lot. I'm looking back at a lot of Eric's things, a lot of the things that I learned with CB and Goose's channel as well. So there's a lot there. I kind of have just been gravitating towards whatever sat well with me. But trading has changed for me a lot since I last even made a video, or since I last had one of these serious talks. So I'll talk about that first, since that's kind of been the biggest thing. Um, I ended up doing pretty well in the last little half of um, 2024, but I lost it all pretty much right at the beginning of 2025, and for not really any particular reason. I wasn't rage trading or over leveraging things like that. I just felt like, oh man, I don't really have a system. I don't have an edge. And I've learned a lot this year, and I've spoken a lot with some very good traders, on phone calls and just messaging. That's really shaped how I think about risk and trading profitability. Um, I will say, like, yes, there's absolutely a technical aspect to this, but the more time I spent doing it, the more I realized, like, yeah, these guys are right. You know, trading is a very, very mental game. My favorite quote, and the one that the more time I spend trading, the more I realize it's true, is that, you know, uh, the best traders think different. That's very, very true. And I found that to be the case when I talk to some of these guys, not just in terms of how they think about price action and market movement, but also in terms of how they think about risk and reward and moving trades, and what how to think about your executions and things like that. So yeah, where do I begin? Um, the catalyst was just a series of losing weeks and feeling like I really didn't have any sort of edge, or I had lost what little edge I did have, and whatever system I'd built, even, you can't even really call it edge, but whatever system I had built um, was just not something that was nuanced and um, accurate enough to actually profit consistently. And that's why I was like, all right, I need to start looking at different things. So I spent some time just purely back testing everything and gathering data, like this mindset of a real professional or a scientist, which I've never really done before. It's always just been like, oh, I know, I'm following, and I'm drawing the lines, and I'm taking the setups, and I guess that I've put in enough time where that's a point to get by and not, just blow up completely and just lose consistently, but it's not enough to really be making money. Um, so I tested, what's the best place to draw the lines, what are the best kinds of setups, all these things. And I ended up finding that I really had no idea what I was doing. I had a lot of work to do. So I ended up just dropping it, and I was like, okay, like I've spent this much time with this stuff. It's been like a year and a half, 2 years. It's been far too long. Like, it's time for me to give something else a shot. So I went all in on like studying order flow and market profile, and I felt like I was completely starting from scratch. Like I was just this brand new beginner trader. And I gave that a run for a few weeks, and the more time I spent with it, the more I felt like, and I kind of approached it with this mindset of like, oh, this is a golden ticket, like this is the secret, right? Because it looks all fancy and all these things, and yeah, I mean, I fell victim to, not victim, but I made the mistake of thinking that it was going to be the shiny golden thing, and it wasn't. It's just another way of analyzing buy and sell orders, of analyzing price. Um, so I ended up kind of just leaving that, and I went back to my old ways, and then I was like, oh well, I'm just gonna do 0.75R and this really aggressive scalping, and I did that for a little while, and I dropped that, and I went back to it, and then I said, oh, I'm gonna just do stocks, and I deposited some money in a Schwab account, and stocks on like the 15 and 30-minute time frames, and just set alerts and swings and things like that, and that just wasn't just, I don't have enough capital to risk to that I could do that without losing my mind. Because you need what, like 25K, right, just to be able to day trade. That's like the PDT, right? Um, so yeah, that wasn't for me either. And then I just went back and I talked to some people, and I was like, look, where have I found the most success? And it's from the lines and the structure and things like that. And it just became something like, look, am I doing the journaling that I was once doing? No. Am I doing the reviews and seeing what's wrong that I was once doing? No. And I also saw some people, this guy saying like, people spend so much time focusing on their setup or their strategy for their exact entry trigger. But the actual entry is only a small part of the trade. There's the trade management. There's the profit taking. There's how you take your stops. There's also the context. And that was one of the biggest ones for me, because I had only been looking at the 2-minute chart for like, I don't know, a year and a half now. Like it just wasn't enough information, like what's going on the higher time frames. I wouldn't even look like, oh, are we above or below like previous high of day? Like that's a huge thing to be aware of, right? And I was thinking like, it doesn't take much for me to go from like break even-ish to slash not succeeding super well to like very profitable. All I would need to do is get rid of, say, like, let's say if there's a certain type of losing trade that I take that accounts for 30% of my losing trades. If I can just kind of diminish, if I can just get rid of that, if I can just get rid of this one type of losing trade that accounts for 30% of my losing trades, like that's huge. That's the difference between someone who's not making any money at all and someone who's making serious money, you know? And then you add on, oh, well, let's say you're able to on the select 30% of your winning trades, you're able to get double the amount of profits. Like that's a night and day difference. So it's these small differences. And I'm chasing that aren't even really related to your actual exact entry trigger, entry sit model that can make a world of difference. You know? And I'm here just thinking like, oh, it's, something in the, order flow or book map, or, there's a different way to draw the lines, or these systems and things like that. And it's just a small part of the equation. So that has been my kind of new epiphany that I'm working on. And I'm doing the reviews and the work that I haven't been doing in like 6 months. And a part of me feels like I've just stagnated the past 6 months, and I know that's not entirely true, but in some ways it is. In some ways I could have improved more, but I wasn't doing reviews. I was going and I was taking 1 or 2 trades in the morning, and I was doing anything else related to trading the whole rest of the day. But I was also working, almost full time at this restaurant, and then I also had the business thing that was going on at the same time with me that I was just getting started, and all of the logistics and the stress with that. And I was also teaching music. Like you don't have time. You don't have time. Just the fact that I was able to like get in, an hour of trading in the morning, like that was enough. And I wouldn't even look at my trades afterwards, and I would just get up the next day and trade again. And now I'm looking at my trades again, and I'm realizing some things that have been like, whoa, that's huge. There's been a mindset shift of one, focusing on the higher time frames, what's going on in the higher time frames, and also focusing on just basic support and resistance. I notice I'm looking back at my losses, dozens and dozens of losses that I've taken over the past several months, and there's just like one common factor, and it's me trying to be like, Al Brooks has this saying. He's like, you're being the first bull or the first bear to make money, and that's exactly what I'm trying to do. We're in like this strong channel down, and there's this initial bull spike, and I'm in long, and it's just a low probability trade. You're just going against the trend. I'm just constantly trading in against the direction of the trend with a very tight stop on a very low time frame, which is the 2 minute. It's just low probability what I'm trying to do. So that's been helpful for me. Yeah. That's been huge, honestly, of just thinking like, where am I on the chart? What's the most recent trend? Have the bulls made more of a move in the past hour, or have the bears made more of a move in the past hour? And if I can't tell, then we're probably in a trading range, and I'm looking to buy at the lows and sell at the highs, or fade breakouts, things like that. And that little shift in terms of how I read price action has made a huge difference. And I've been avoiding a lot of the types of losing trades that the old me would have taken. And I will literally look at the chart and say, like, look, an old me would have taken that trade. And I know very well that I would have, because I did that for months and months and months. So a lot of this is mindset. A lot of this is thinking about price differently and how the markets move a little differently. And that was in part to a lot of traders who had helped me out. So look, that's where I'm at with all of this. I'm headed in the right direction, and I know I've matured, because I know like a year ago, if I had like a streak or something, I would get all stressed and all, really jittery, and I was so anxious about the next day, and I didn't think about markets and market movement and risk in the same way that I do now. I've matured so much in that sense, because I've actually, and the only way to do so is by experiencing it and going and trading the market every day. So look, that's what that goes as far as trading. And it's the same thing like Eric will say, like, no longs, no calls until we get above this yellow 458 or above this yellow 460. And I'm longing at like yellow 420, 430, right? Because I'm like, oh, this is the breakup, right? And I'm going to catch the move from the bottom. So, yeah. That's that's as far as things go trading. I have more time now. I'm reading more. Um, Look, I have to be very disciplined in my life because there's no accountability for me. It's just me. Like, I just live alone, and I will go most days without talk. Like, I will go most days without seeing anyone. I'm just in my apartment, and then I'll go to the gym or I'll swim. And sometimes I go at night, and I literally will just be the only one there. Uh, so like, and most days I don't even talk to anyone really in person. So I need to be very accountable and responsible. But at the same time, I do have this. There is like, this does have its pros and cons. This is like an incredible opportunity because I have no distractions. It's like pure like monk mode, right? As they say, I have no distractions. It's just me. Um, so, yeah, more time. I would like to spend more time reading, studying. I want to learn more about finance rather than just being like a trader. It feels like too incomplete, just a candlestick chart trader when there's the whole this is a massive world I'm